I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people going into churches, visiting churches who would never have been there otherwise, because the churches have made a really special effort to connect the history and the research with opening up and with welcoming visitors. And on the tourism side, it's been really exciting to see more and more churches grasping the opportunity to open up, to be places of welcome. And it's been brilliant to see really creative initiatives of art displays and extra activities, community activities, historical displays of old photographs, all sorts of things in little villages where they've welcomed people who never normally go into church. And that's all been connected.
The beauty of the Open Churches weekends is that they've been centrally run. So we've been able to put so much more money and organisation into advertising and publicity and just getting the word out, more than perhaps just a single church. If a single church decides to open on a particular day, they're not going to get the word as far and wide as we've been lucky to be able to. The churches involved has been a massive range, from our oldest church to some of our newest churches. And it's been lovely really that churches that perhaps aren't a natural tourist destination have jumped on board, and by putting on interesting events and other attractions, they've got loads of people in as well.
We hadn't really planned for so much tourism to come out of it, and yet that was, for me, the big win. We got lots of trail leaflets, again courtesy of Heather and others who wrote those, and the Open Churches weekends, which we trialled in one half of the diocese, then we did the other half, and then we tried both halves together, and just snowballed. And that to go around churches on Open Churches weekend in July and see them doing so many activities, not just here's the door open, go in and have a wander around, but actually putting on fairs and concerts and outdoor events, and it was just wonderful to see. And go in and have a ring of a church bell, go and climb a tower and see. They really bought into the idea, and this again was all volunteer work. Nothing that we were doing. We just said, here's the week, here's the structure, would you like to be involved? And churches just said, yes, we love doing this sort of thing.
And very often I've been going around churches when they've been open, and visitors have walked in saying, I never knew this was here, and I didn't know that was here, and I didn't know I could just come in and look around.
We had the church open for various types of event, like an Open Churches weekend before, but this was more structured. The advertising meant that we could attract people from further afield than we could with local advertising. And as far as we were concerned, drawing people into church that didn't normally come to church was of great benefit, not just to the church, but to the community. We actually used the tower as the theme for attraction, in that people could go to the top of the tower and see the whole village from the top of the tower. And they could also have a try on the bells.
Then another time we had the pewter on show.
We did.
And that attracted a lot of people.
We found that the church owns the earliest known commemorative pewter, which is a pewter tankard, which commemorates the marriage of King Charles II to Catherine of Braganza.
But because that was on show, we could have a talk in the evening about it and everything, so that got people in.
I mean, we both are very keen to see our church open and used as much as possible.
I was born in Stoke Bardolph. I've been there since I was 5. People don't realise there's a church in Stoke Bardolph. They drive down to the river, look at the village and say, oh, you have a church. So we tried to open just to put it on the map. But when the Church History Project started, I mean, the advertising for that was amazing. And so that gave us more opportunity to get more people in. And I think it makes a lot of people able to come through into the church because they're coming through on a social occasion. Sometimes I think actually going through a church door is the hardest part, and it brings them through the door and they see the church is friendly and welcoming, and that we do lots of things. They pick leaflets up and look at the services and just enjoy the whole ambience. And yes, I think it's been very good indeed. I probably complained at the time that I'm absolutely exhausted, but I've loved it.
We saw the event for the Great North Road advertised, and we decided to go along to that. And we were so excited about what they did. To see the possibilities for this in our church.
Yeah. So we tried to think of an idea of getting people into the church, and we had the idea of doing a mile of pennies. This really took off, and even the local newspaper were encouraged with
Yes,
weren't they?
They thought it was something really different, so they came to find out more about it.
On the day we had about 600 people come to our open church. It was fantastic. And I was doing graveyard talks and tours for about 20 at a time, 20 people. And they couldn't believe that there was just so much history. People could come up and have a go at ringing their bells. I mean, the noise was horrendous, but young children loved it, didn't they?
Oh, they absolutely loved it.
Yes.
We got all the children to participate. We actually asked children to look after stalls. And they actually looked after stalls, didn't they?
Yes,
and looked after the money and took money and all that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know what we'd done without the children, really.
Yeah. I think I've learnt so much about the history of the church in Hickling from doing it. And I've got a personal interest because my ancestors were living in Hickling in the 1600s. So to find out about life then and the church and imagine them worshipping in that church, you know, now I really want the church kept open and people to come and experience what I felt inside that church.
That's right. One of the outcomes of this has actually been that we would like to change the church. We've seen so many other churches who have changed and updated, and I feel that this is what we need to do in Hickling. We really need to make it a warm place so people feel welcome, perhaps get rid of the pews, make it much more usable.
Make it part of the community.
Yes.
And make people welcome when they come to the church.
Instead of it being an empty church, let's use it as a facility, you know. You know, we have the beautiful areas with the choir stalls and the altars and all this sort of thing, but you've got to have it a living church. You've got to have it as part of your community. That's what it's always been, hasn't it? It's always been so important to the people in the village, and that's what we'd like it to be again.
We've been open since 1936, when at a PCC meeting someone said there had been people trying to get into the church to look round and they couldn't get in. So it was resolved that it should be unlocked, and that was it. We're not going to get crowds and crowds of people coming, but I think it's simply a matter of being here, having welcoming people and some refreshments, and to provide them with what they want, which might be a sort of academic tour. It may just be someone who wants to look at the antiphonal, say.
We have acquired a digitised version of our 15th century service book, the Woollerton Antiphonal, which is available in the church for people to see, which of course, if we'd have been doing this 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to mention. It only came last year, so it is quite an asset. The last Open Churches weekend that we had about, we didn't have a vast number of visitors. We had about 20 to 30 visitors over the 2 days. But they came in and were very interested, and we were able to spend quite a lot of time with each one, taking them round.
Quite a lot of them spent up to an hour here, and one or two longer than that.